Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Toyo Proxes Sport All-Season Plus. And you might be asking yourself, is this tire any darn good? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MartiniWorks. I'm Alex Martini, and we're gonna answer that very question. You don't know why? I'll tell you why. Because we review everything we sell. Because quite honestly, if you don't and you just talk about facts and figures, sometimes you feel like you need a little bit more before you pull the trigger. Now these ones are actually going on Gels' FK8 Honda Civic Type R. They're going on a set of Apex forges, which meant we got to get our hands on these things because quite honestly, they're a little bit different. Usually we talk about summer tires on this channel. We're talking about 200 treadwear stuff. We're talking about fancy dancy silica things that would help you shave seconds off of a lap time. And ladies and gentlemen, the Toyo Proxes Sport AS, we're not going to talk about that here. We're going to talk about why you would buy an all-season tire like this one. Now first things first, let's get the price out of the way. This is gonna be slightly more affordable than something that you would find on the website like in a DWS06 Plus or something from Continental. You're gonna find that this is going to be also more affordable than a Michelin competitor like an AS4. So what do you get when you get something that's a little bit more affordable? Well, you might be thinking that you get a sacrifice to the longevity or maybe the treadwear or something like that, and you really don't. The Toyo Proxes Sport AS Plus is essentially Toyo's answer to giving people the closest thing that you could get into that high performance or ultra high performance summer tire with an all season tread design. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, they spent a lot of time making sure that you didn't see or feel any sort of sacrifice to give you a competitive price. You're gonna notice that these channels are actually quite deep. You're gonna notice that this has a lot of sipes. You're gonna notice that this is also an asymmetrical design. You have an inside and an outside. Why do they do that? A few reasons particularly. Number one of the big things with an all season is that you need the compound of a tire to behave differently depending on the temperature of the road and the temperature, like the ambient temperature of where you live. To get a compound to behave well pretty much across a wide gamut of temperatures, one of the things that you can do is you can control the design of the tread blocks, and you can also control the silica compound or the amount of silica that you use inside of the compound, which is essentially what helps you grip up in certain conditions, things like wet, things like rain, things like uneven road surfaces. And the Toyo Proxes Sport AS Plus has a boatload of it. Now, what do you get when you have high silica? Well, a lot of times you can also get issues where the tire might wear out quickly. You might also get it to the feeling of when you see or feel when you turn a car really fast and you induce some understeer and you feel like the tire is almost like rolling in itself. That's a lot of times those shoulder blocks actually going, instead of going straight, they start going sideways. And that is what gives it that ugly feeling. And sometimes the silica compound can actually encourage more bad behavior from your tires. So Toyo Proxes Sport AS Plus, what makes it special is it has a good amount of silica compound in the actual rubber. And to make sure that you don't get any of the bad stuff by doing that, they actually do some funky stuff with the blocks. You're gonna notice that these actually have a taper on them, and that might not seem like a very big deal, but in the world of all seasons, it's a huge deal. And the reason that that is because when you have any sort of force load that's kind of coming to the tire and pushing it this way, this actually helps retain the rigidity so you don't feel that rollover. You're gonna feel like it's actually still sticking, even though this is technically an all-season tire. Now, one of the things I did notice about this thing that I like as well is they actually have two different molds depending on the section width of the tire. Now, this one here is a 265/35/19. I believe when you go above 285, it has a cut right down the middle and has a whole nother center rib design. And that's actually really nice because sometimes tire companies don't do that. I'm giving you a lot of facts and figures, and the reason that I'm trying to give you a lot of facts and figures is because when it comes down to it, this is just a giant circle of rubber, and it's very hard to understand if this thing is a good thing or not. The good things about Toyo tires is that they do make good tires. Contrary to popular belief, what ends up happening is when people install tires wrong, they blame the tires every single time. Toyo notoriously makes good tires. They also make good value tires. These are more affordable like we talked about. What do you get with this though? There are some things that I would just want to keep in mind. A lot of people will compare this to like a Bridgestone. A lot of people also compare this to the Yokohama all season, and they will also compare it to, like what we just said, the Continental DWS06 Plus. This tire is cheaper than most of those, but it is a little bit noisier than those as well. You're gonna experience a little bit more road noise, and I think what a lot of that comes down to is this tire has so many different sipes and grooves, essentially water evacuation methods so that you can keep traction on the ground when it's raining, but what you get at the cost of that is more road noise. The other thing that I'll say is that this is a tire that doesn't come in a billion different sizes. In fact, if you go on MartiniWorks.com, you'll see all of the sizes that the Toyo Proxes Sport AS Plus comes in on a single page, because there's not that many. These are really exclusively in that like 19, 20-inch segment, which is actually why we're getting them on the Honda Civic Type R, because we actually went down in wheel diameter for the Type R with the Apex forges, but it requires a very funky looking section width and aspect ratio in terms of the sidewall, which there's not a whole lot of options out there. And one of them is Toyo tires. I would say overall though, most of the people are gonna really enjoy this. This is one of those tires where you have a daily driver and you occasionally wanna drive it fun on a public road. The Toyo Tire Sport AS Plus does handle it really well. One of the big things though, if you're looking to understand a little bit more, we talked about that dynamic taper, we talked about they call it a multi-wave sipes, which essentially improves that wet braking. We talked about the fact that it's an asymmetrical tread pattern, so you do have to be careful with that, especially if you're getting them mounted at a random local tire shop, which is why we always recommend that you package your wheels and tires on MartiniWorks.com. Yes, that is a plug, but it's a good plug because we know how asymmetrical tires actually work. And we talked about the Enter Center Rib for 285 plus sizes. Now, the tread wear on this is gonna vary a little bit by size, but it's typically a 440 or a 460. You're gonna see the speed rating between V, W, and Y, so it is available up to 186 miles an hour. Not that the cars that you're gonna put this on should go 186 miles an hour. I've seen some of the cars that you guys and gals build. It doesn't need to go 186 miles an hour. There is also a trial guarantee on this, if that's a big deal for you. So with that being said, 2 reasons I love this tire and maybe 1 reason I would skip out on it. Well, I think the first thing comes down to, this does do a really good job at being an all-season tire. And I know that sounds really weird, but there's a lot of people that are constantly trying to make ultra high performance, ultra super sexy, incredible all seasons, and they just kind of stink at it all. Toyo doesn't pretend to make an all season. There's a lot of great tech in this. There's a lot of great things, especially in the compound, that make sure it sticks to the road in the wet, and it also does well when it's dry. And you can see that in the physical design of this tire. And I do like that. I also like the taper that they did in the actual tread design as well, because it shows me that they're actually paying attention to anybody that would want to push this tire a little bit. This tire is a very stiff tire as well, which means around a corner, you're probably not going to feel a whole lot of roll. You're not going to feel a whole lot of roll because of taper design, and you're also not going to feel a whole lot of roll because the tire looks like the carcass, the actual assembly of this seems very, very stiff. Another reason that I like it is because Toyo is a good brand. I think the tread wear being indicative of longevity is a subjective thing. We know that UTQG is only a control tire against itself, and it's not really maintained by anyone. This is just saying that it's 4.4 or 4 times longer lasting than some random control tire that Toyo put on a machine somewhere. But what I can say is that reviews on the internet, and also from what we've driven on Toyo tires, they do last a good long while. So I would say if you're trying to get something that's gonna last you, that you're gonna enjoy, that you can drive everywhere, especially in inclement weather, this is a really good option. It's also more affordable than some of the competitors, which does matter right now because everyone is broke and everything's insanely expensive. One of the reasons that I probably wouldn't pick it up, I think the limited sizes that it has, at least with us at MartiniWorks, is definitely a little bit of a bummer. And I would also argue that it being a little bit louder than some of the competitors might actually throw some people off. This might not matter to 90% of the audience, but it'll matter to the 10. We've seen a lot of people pick up wheels and tires for their Teslas and their EVs over the last year or 2. And what I would say with that is that this is going to be a louder tire, and as a byproduct, you might notice that you don't like that. So it's not the end of the world, especially if you have a race car with an aftermarket exhaust, but if you don't have an exhaust because you have an electric vehicle, you're definitely gonna hear it. But if you're looking to pick up a set of Toyo tires, you can get them over at MartiniWorks.com. Overall, I would give this thing, especially the all-season, I'd give it a rating of right around 8 out of 10, but we really want to see how it tests out at US Air on the Type R. So if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe. And if you're looking for a tire like this, you can go check it out at MartiniWorks.com. All the noise you're hearing in the background is Jel's working on that car right now, so I'm going to get back to work, which is essentially just holding the 10 mil until he yells at me. I hope you enjoy the video, and we'll see you later.